So let's dive into how to configure a workgroup switch on a Cisco network. Actually, before we do, let me show you a couple network administrator cool little tricks that I've learned through the years on the Windows side of the house, especially dealing with Visio and just some of the simple stuff. So as you may have noticed, that the capability with Visio to click on things, you notice that when I mouse over this, it comes up and says telnet to that particular address. Interestingly enough, it's not actually telnetting there. What it's going to do right now, because I already have it configured because of our previous demo here, is that it's actually set up for SSH, which we'll be setting up through this lab. But what it's doing took me a little while to figure out how to do this with Visio. To actually do this, you create a link for an icon. So this is actually the Cisco icons pulled out of the Packet Magazine PowerPoint set. If you hit Control-K on your keyboard, when you've selected an icon, it comes up with a hyperlink setting within Visio. So I just said telnet and telnet to this address. But I don't really want a telnet there. I want to use secure shell. So what I did with a little trick in XP, and I still haven't figured out how to do this in Vista yet. Vista has issues in the same area. I'm going to just open up my computer here. There we go. If you go to Tools and go to Folder Options and go to File Types, the register file types here, scroll down, no, not too far, there we go, to the extension types that list none are basically the protocol types. And I'm looking for telnet here, going to go to Advanced and then go to Edit here, and it shows the application used. And what I did was I pointed it over to an application I like to use for SSH, and that's PuTTY. And I placed that in the program files PuTTY directory. They don't really have an install for PuTTY, but I actually put it where I thought it should go in a Windows box. So there you have it. It's C:\program files PuTTY / and then PuTTY.exe. And then I use the -SSH notation here and %L to place the IP address I have on the telnet URL. In that case, since that's in place, I'm able to now close all this out, go back here. If I, from a browser or from something that was hyperlinked something, if I use telnet now, it's going to attempt to SSH. Now, of course, that's going to break telnet unless I use the command line telnet in Windows. But in this case, if I telnet over, there we have it. Okay, so if I go and log in, I've already logged in, got a username of admin and a password of Cisco, I'm able to log into the switch. Okay, so I did say that this is an already pre-configured switch, but what we're going to do through this process is walk through the steps of wiping the configuration and creating essentially the configuration that's already there, with a few minor changes and some additions that you need to know for from a basic standpoint of setting up iOS. So let me first explain the prompt that we're at right now. Now, the prompt that we're at right now is the user exec prompt. The user exec prompt is indicated by the host name of the device, and by default, a switch will have a host name of switch, and a router will have a host name of router. Not very, conductive to troubleshooting type problems when you have 45 switches in your network. So one of the first things we'll change is actually change this host name. But then the next thing here, this greater than sign, indicates that we are in user exec. Now, user exec, otherwise known as level 1, is kind of a you can look at some things but can't touch type environment. I can do some real basic commands here, look at some of the output from some show commands, but nothing extremely damaging as far as security stuff. I mean, I can't look at access lists. I can't look at the configuration. Although from a recon perspective, I'd probably get a lot of information if I was trying to break in a network just by getting to user exec mode. For the most part, it's, again, a look but can't touch environment. As an administrator, you'll spend very, very little time here at level 1. I often find that administrators almost immediately type the command to get to privilege exec and don't even bother with doing anything at user exec, even when what they're trying to accomplish could have been done at user exec. So the command we're going to type to get from user exec and move up and escalate our privileges is the enable command. So if I type enable and hit enter, it's going to ask me for a password. Of course, I have a password configured. If you don't have a password configured, it's either going to not let you in at all, or it's going to simply let you in. And the difference is depending on how you're connected. If you're connected via a console port, via serial connection, and you type enable, if there's no password, it just puts you in the next prompt. If you go in via a network connection, like an SSH connection like I am right now, if there was no password set, me typing enable would come back with an error saying that since there's no password set, I can't escalate my privileges. So in this case, the password is Cisco.